What if the man who helped illuminate the modern world spent his final years in a small hotel room, nearly forgotten, feeding pigeons while the civilization he helped create pulsed with electric life all around him? What if the lights above our cities, the motors hidden inside our machines, the invisible signals passing through the air, and the strange dream of wireless power all trace back to a mind that seemed to think not in ordinary language, but in lightning? His name was Nikola Tesla. Not merely an inventor, not merely an engineer, but a man who looked at nature and saw an immense electrical organism, a universe vibrating with unseen forces, waiting to be understood. And yet, when the final chapter of his life arrived, Tesla did not die surrounded by wealth, honors, laboratories, or the vast machines he had imagined. He died alone. On the 7th of January 1943, inside the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan, a maid opened the door to room 3327 and found the body of an 86-year-old man who had called that room home for nearly a decade. The world outside was powered by principles he helped bring into existence. But inside that room, there was silence. Tesla had died broke. His diet had become simple and strange: warm milk, crackers, and the quiet ritual of feeding pigeons outside. One of the greatest inventors in human history had faded into obscurity, as if the very age he electrified had somehow forgotten the source of its own illumination. But this is not simply the story of a brilliant man who lost his fortune. It is the story of a mind that saw the invisible before the world was ready to believe in it. It is the story of electricity, ambition, betrayal, compassion, lost patents, burned laboratories, wireless dreams, and a future that arrived too late to save the man who foresaw it. And to understand why Nikola Tesla died nearly penniless, we must begin not with his inventions but with the storm. Nikola Tesla was born on the 10th of July, 1856, in the village of Smiljan, in what is now Croatia. According to family legend, he entered the world during a violent lightning storm. The sky above the village split open with flashes of electricity, as if nature itself were announcing the arrival of a child who would one day devote his life to the hidden laws of power. The story says that during the birth, the midwife looked upon the storm and said, "This child will be a child of darkness." Tesla's mother immediately answered, "No, he will be a child of light." Whether the story is history or legend, its symbolism is almost too perfect to ignore. Tesla's life would become a struggle between darkness and illumination, between poverty and genius, between recognition and erasure, between the visible world of machines and the invisible world of energy. His childhood, however, was not only marked by wonder, it was also marked by trauma. When Tesla was 5 years old, he saw his older brother fall from a horse. His brother later died from the injury. That death haunted Tesla for the rest of his life. It became one of those early wounds that never truly closes, a shadow moving quietly behind every triumph. Soon after, Tesla began experiencing strange visions. Flashes of light would appear before his eyes. Images came to him with such intensity that he sometimes struggled to distinguish imagination from physical reality. For many people, such visions might have been terrifying or disabling. For Tesla, they became something else. They became a private laboratory. Inside his mind, Tesla could build machines before they existed. He could rotate them, test them, revise them, and perfect them without touching paper. Where other inventors sketched diagrams and built models, Tesla often claimed he could complete the entire process mentally, as though his imagination were a chamber of precision instruments. Years later, in 1919, he described this extraordinary ability. He explained that when he conceived a device in his mind, it would often work exactly as he intended once built. In his account, the experiment came out as planned, and for years he claimed there had been no exception. To some, this sounded impossible. But Tesla was not ordinary. He possessed a mind drawn to patterns, numbers, motion, and invisible causes. He could perform calculus in his head. He spoke 8 languages. He remembered images with astonishing clarity, and much of this, he believed, came from his mother. Tesla's mother, Duka Mandic, was not formally known as an engineer, but she possessed a deeply inventive mind. In her spare time, she created small household tools and appliances. She could memorize long passages and recall images with rare precision. Tesla admired her greatly, and he credited her for awakening in him the instinct to invent. His father, however, imagined a different future. Tesla's father was a Serbian Orthodox priest, and he wanted his son to follow the same path. A life of religion, discipline, and service seemed to be the destiny laid before him. But Tesla's mind was already drawn somewhere else. He was fascinated by machines, by water wheels, by motion, by energy. by the possibility that nature's hidden forces could be captured, transformed, and directed toward human progress. Then, as a teenager, Tesla contracted cholera. He became gravely ill. For a time, death seemed close. In that moment of fear, his father made a promise. If Nikola survived, he would be allowed to study engineering. Tesla did survive, and from that point forward, the course of his life changed. He traveled to Austria to study at the Technical College of Graz. There, his discipline became almost superhuman. It is said he worked from 3 in the morning until 11 at night. His professors became so alarmed by his intensity that they feared he might destroy himself through exhaustion. At first, Tesla was a brilliant student, but brilliance does not always move in a straight line. Despite his extraordinary mind, he did not finish school. He developed a gambling problem, lost control of his studies, and eventually cut ties with his family so they would not discover what had happened. His disappearance was so complete that some of his friends believed he had drowned in a river. This was the first of many collapses in Tesla's life moments, when the path of genius seemed to vanish into darkness, only to reappear somewhere unexpected. He moved through Europe, searching for work, searching for purpose, perhaps searching for the shape of the future that already burned inside him. Eventually, Tesla arrived in Budapest, where he worked as an electrician at a telephone company. And there, in a city park, something happened that would change the world. One day, while walking through a park in Budapest, Tesla experienced one of the great flashes of insight in technological history. He saw in his mind a new way to generate and use electricity. Not direct current, the dominant electrical system of the time, but alternating current. To understand why this mattered, we must pause and look beneath the surface. Electricity is not just power, it is movement, it is flow, it is rhythm. Direct current, or DC, moves in one direction. It is simple, useful, and effective for certain applications. But it has limits, especially when trying to transmit power across long distances. Alternating current, or AC, changes direction periodically. It rises, falls, reverses, and repeats. It is electrical motion expressed as rhythm, a pulse, a wave, a vibration. And because of this oscillating nature, AC can be transformed more easily into different voltages, allowing electricity to travel over great distances with far less loss. Tesla's insight was not merely mechanical, it was almost musical. He understood that power could move through the world not as a brute force, but as a controlled vibration. This idea would become the foundation of the electrical age. The lights in American homes, the motors inside factories, the appliances humming quietly in kitchens, the vast grids that carry power across states and nations, all of them owe something to that vision of alternating current. But before Tesla could transform the world, he would have to enter the world of another inventor, a man already famous, already powerful, and already invested in a rival system, Thomas Edison. In 1882, Tesla moved to Paris to work for the French branch of Thomas Edison's electric company. At first, his work was practical. He installed indoor lighting systems. But Tesla's talent could not remain hidden for long. His managers quickly recognized that he was capable of far more than routine electrical labor. Soon, he was designing and building dynamos and motors. Then he was sent across Europe to solve difficult technical problems at other Edison branches. Tesla had entered the machinery of the modern world, but he was still far from the place where his destiny would ignite. In 1884, Tesla was offered a position at Edison Machine Works in New York City. He accepted. He crossed the Atlantic and arrived in America with almost nothing. According to the story, his money was stolen during the journey, leaving him with only 4 cents in his pocket. Imagine that moment. A young immigrant steps into New York with nearly no money, no empire, no security, only a mind full of machines not yet built, and an electrical system the world did not yet understand. At first, Tesla admired Edison. Edison, in turn, was impressed by Tesla's astonishing work ethic. The older inventor reportedly praised him as one of the hardest working assistants he had ever known. But mutual admiration did not last. The conflict between them was not only personal, it was philosophical. Edison believed in direct current. He had patents, infrastructure, and commercial interests tied to DC power. Tesla believed alternating current was the future. In one sense, this was a dispute between two electrical systems. In another, it was a clash between two visions of civilization. Edison's system was local, limited, and commercially protected. Tesla's system promised distance, scale, efficiency, and the electrification of the world. And when such visions collide, the result is rarely peaceful. According to Tesla, a manager at Edison's company offered him a $50,000 bonus if he could improve certain direct current machines. Tesla did the work, But when the time came to pay, the promise allegedly vanished. In one version of the story, Edison himself dismissed the matter as American humor. Whether every detail unfolded exactly as Tesla later described remains debated, but the result is clear. Tesla left. In 1885, he set out to form his own electric company. For a moment, it seemed as though independence had arrived. But then came another bitter lesson. Tesla's investors showed little interest in his larger vision. They took control of the company and its patents. Tesla had assigned those patents to the company in exchange for stock, but the stock became worthless. The man who could see the future of electricity found himself stripped of his own creations. To survive, Tesla took work digging ditches for $2 a day. There is something almost mythic in that image, a mind capable of redesigning civilization forced to labor in the ground, beneath the very streets that one day would glow because of his ideas. But Tesla's story was not finished. In 1887, he invented the induction motor powered by alternating current. This was not a minor improvement. It was one of the essential machines of the modern age, an efficient way to convert electrical energy into mechanical power. Versions of the induction motor would eventually drive industrial machinery, household devices, and, more than a century later, electric vehicles bearing Tesla's name. When Tesla demonstrated the motor in 1888 at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, the right people noticed. One of them was George Westinghouse. Westinghouse was already a major figure in the electrical industry. He understood what Edison resisted. Tesla's alternating current motor could complete an entire AC system and challenge Edison's direct current empire. So Westinghouse licensed Tesla's patents for $60,000, along with stock and royalties. He also hired Tesla as a consultant for $2,000 a month, an enormous sum at the time. Tesla had found not merely an investor, but a believer. And now, the war began. History remembers it as the War of the Currents, but it was more than a business rivalry. It was a public battle over fear, trust, danger, money, and the future of electricity itself. Edison tried to discredit alternating current by portraying it as deadly. He and his allies supported demonstrations meant to show the public that AC was dangerous. The electric chair, using alternating current, became part of this campaign. Animals were publicly electrocuted in attempts to frighten people away from Tesla and Westinghouse's system. One of the darkest examples occurred in 1903, when a circus elephant named Topsy was electrocuted, and the event was filmed under the title Electrocuting an Elephant. The message was brutal and simple: alternating current kills. But the deeper truth was more complicated. Any powerful electrical system can be dangerous when misused. The question was not whether electricity could kill. The question was whether humanity could learn to control it safely, efficiently, and at scale. Tesla believed it could, and soon, the world would see evidence. In 1893, Westinghouse and Tesla underbid Edison and General Electric to illuminate the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. This was not just another fair. It was a vast public spectacle attended by millions, celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the Americas. For many visitors, it was the first time they had seen an entire world lit electrically. At night, the fairgrounds glowed. Buildings shimmered. Walkways gleamed. Crowds moved through an artificial dawn created by alternating current. 27 million people attended the exposition, and they did not merely see lights. They saw the future. AC had stepped out of the laboratory and into the imagination of the public. But the most powerful victory was still ahead. Niagara Falls had long been seen as a symbol of raw, natural force water descending with unimaginable power, as if the Earth itself were releasing stored energy. For Tesla, Niagara represented something more. It was proof that nature was not an enemy to be conquered, but a force to be understood, harmonized, and transformed. Westinghouse and Tesla won the contract to build the world's first major alternating current hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls. Once completed, the system transmitted electricity to Buffalo, New York, helping to demonstrate that AC could carry power over long distances. This was not only an industrial achievement, it was a spiritual moment in the history of technology. The falling water of Niagara became light, gravity became current, motion became civilization. Tesla had helped prove that renewable natural energy could be converted into electrical power on a grand scale. Today, a statue of him stands at Niagara Falls, a reminder that his dream was never only about machines, but about the union of nature and human invention. The war of the currents had been won. Direct current was being phased out for large-scale distribution. Alternating current would become the foundation of the modern electrical grid. Tesla had changed the world, but victory did not make him secure. Westinghouse's company was in financial trouble. Debt mounted, The business was under pressure. In 1897, Westinghouse came to Tesla and asked if his royalties could be reduced in order to save the company. Many inventors, faced with such a request, would have refused. Tesla did something almost unimaginable. Moved by loyalty and gratitude, he tore up his contract. He gave up royalties that could have made him one of the richest men on Earth. Estimates suggest that he walked away from millions, then worth hundreds of millions today. Had he kept those royalties, Tesla might have become the first billionaire in history. But Tesla was not built like the men who measured success only in capital. He believed Westinghouse had trusted him when others would not. And so he chose friendship, gratitude, and the survival of the AC system over personal fortune. It was one of the most generous decisions in the history of invention. It was also one of the most financially devastating. In return, Westinghouse paid Tesla $216,000 for the permanent rights to use his AC patents. This was still a significant amount of money, enough to give Tesla financial independence for a time. And with that independence, he entered one of the most dazzling periods of his career. Tesla established laboratories in New York, where he pursued ideas that seemed to hover between engineering and prophecy. His work attracted visitors from elite circles, including the great American writer Mark Twain, who became his friend. To enter Tesla's laboratory was to enter a theater of controlled lightning. There were coils, sparks, high-voltage arcs, strange lamps, vibrating machinery, and experiments that seemed to bend the boundary between science and magic. But Tesla was not performing tricks. He was investigating the invisible architecture of nature. Over his lifetime, he held more than 300 patents. He created an early form of neon lighting. He developed the Tesla turbine, a bladeless turbine designed for mechanical efficiency. He experimented with radiation and helped pioneer early X-ray technology, even producing an X-ray image of his own hand. In 1898, at Madison Square Garden, Tesla demonstrated one of the first remote-controlled devices, a miniature boat that moved according to wireless commands. The audience was stunned. Some thought he was using magic, but there was no magic, only a mind operating decades ahead of its time. That small boat was an ancestor of remote-controlled vehicles, drones, and the wireless systems that now fill modern life. Yet among Tesla's most famous inventions was the Tesla coil. The Tesla coil could generate enormous voltages and spectacular electrical discharges, but its significance went beyond sparks. Through his experiments, Tesla discovered that energy and signals could be transmitted and received when systems resonated at the same frequency. Resonance. That word is central to understanding Tesla. To most people, electricity was a utility. To Tesla, it was a language. Frequency, vibration, oscillation, these were not abstract concepts. They were keys. Keys to power, communication, and perhaps even a deeper relationship between humanity and the natural world. Tesla was preparing to broadcast his first radio signal. Then disaster struck. In 1895, a fire destroyed Tesla's laboratory. Years of research were lost. Equipment was ruined. Notes, instruments, prototypes, much of it vanished in flames. For an ordinary inventor, such a disaster would have been devastating. For Tesla, whose mind held entire machines in invisible form, it was still catastrophic. The laboratory was not merely a workspace. It was a temple of experiment, a place where thought became energy and energy became form. The fire marked a turning point. Tesla continued working, but the trajectory of his life began to darken. At the same time, another figure was rising, Guglielmo Marconi, an Italian entrepreneur working on wireless radio in England. Marconi tried to acquire patent rights in the United States, but his applications were initially rejected because they were too similar to Tesla's existing work. Then, in 1901, Marconi transmitted the first transatlantic radio message. It was a historic achievement. But according to the original account, Marconi's system relied on Tesla's patents. Edison then threw financial support behind Marconi, and in 1904, the U.S. Patent Office suddenly reversed itself and awarded Marconi a patent for the invention of radio. No clear explanation was given for the change. Some interpret this as a result of Marconi's growing financial and institutional support. Others see it as part of a broader pattern in Tesla's life. He opened doors into the future, but others often walked through them first and claimed the prize. Tesla was furious. He sued Marconi. The legal battle dragged on for years. The matter was not settled in Tesla's favor until after Tesla had already died. Marconi won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1909, an honor made possible in part by the technological foundations Tesla had helped create. For Tesla, the radio dispute was not merely about money. It was about recognition. It was about the theft, or at least the overshadowing of a vision. and it wounded the rest of his career. Tesla's greatest dream was not simply radio. His dream was wireless communication on a planetary scale. He imagined a world where messages could be sent through the air without wires, a world where information could travel invisibly across continents and oceans, a world that, in many ways, resembles the wireless civilization we now inhabit. But Tesla's vision went even further. He believed power itself might someday be transmitted wirelessly, not just signals, energy. To pursue this dream, he began building Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, New York. Wardenclyffe was meant to be more than a radio station. It was to be a global transmission system, a structure designed to interact with the Earth, the atmosphere, and the principles of resonance. To some researchers and admirers, Wardenclyffe remains one of the most mysterious abandoned projects in modern technological history. Was it a bold but impractical dream? Was it a misunderstood scientific experiment? Was Tesla reaching toward a form of energy transmission humanity still has not fully explored? There is no final proof that Wardenclyffe could have achieved everything Tesla imagined, but the ambition itself is staggering. Tesla was not thinking like a businessman trying to sell devices. He was thinking like a man trying to tune civilization to the hidden frequencies of the planet. But financial backers did not share his certainty. Investors grew skeptical. They saw Marconi's radio work gaining commercial momentum. They wanted profit, not prophecy. They wanted a system that could be owned, built, and controlled. Tesla's broader vision was too strange, too expensive, too far ahead of the market. Funding disappeared. By 1905, Tesla was forced to abandon Wardenclyffe. Eventually, he lost the tower to foreclosure. The dream of global wireless energy collapsed into debt and silence. And with it, something inside Tesla seemed to collapse as well. Tesla's later years became increasingly isolated. His mental health deteriorated. His finances weakened. The world he helped create continued moving forward, but it did not carry him with it. Beginning in 1933, he lived at the New Yorker Hotel. The Westinghouse Corporation hired him as a consultant and paid for his room, allowing him to live rent-free. But this did not restore the empire he had lost. He became known for his unusual habits. He was intensely private. He followed strict routines. He developed deep affection for pigeons, feeding them with devotion. To some observers, these behaviors seemed eccentric. To others, they were signs of a mind wounded by grief, isolation, and decades of disappointment. Yet even in decline, Tesla remained Tesla. He continued to think in grand patterns. He continued to imagine inventions. He continued to speak of energy, transmission, and the future. But the world had changed. The age of heroic inventors was giving way to the age of corporations, institutions, laboratories, and industrial finance. Tesla's genius had flourished in imagination, but it struggled in systems built around ownership, patents, investors, and market control. So why did one of the greatest inventors of all time die nearly penniless? Part of the answer is misfortune. The fire that destroyed his laboratory, the patent battles, the investors who lost faith, the shifting machinery of business and recognition. But the deeper answer is this. Tesla was not, at his core, a capitalist. He did not think primarily in money. He thought in forces, in principles, in possibilities, in the improvement of humanity. He made decisions that a sharper businessman might never have made. He surrendered royalties that could have made him unimaginably wealthy. He pursued ideas before there was a profitable market for them. He trusted vision more than commerce. And in the modern world, vision without capital is often left vulnerable. Tesla wanted to change the world, and he did. But he did not build the financial fortress that might have protected him after changing it. Today, Tesla's name has returned to public consciousness. Part of that renewed attention comes from the electric vehicle company that bears his name. But long before that company existed, long before the modern obsession with innovation and clean energy, Nikola Tesla had already helped lay the foundation for the electrified world. Every time a city glows at night, his legacy is present. Every time an alternating current motor turns, his legacy is present. Every time wireless signals move invisibly through the air, his legacy is present. Every time we imagine energy not as something locked inside wires, but as something that might move through fields, frequencies, and resonance, Tesla's ghost seems to stand nearby. He was not right about everything. No genius is. Some of his dreams remained unfinished. Some of his theories remained debated. Some of his visions reached beyond what the science of his time could prove. But that is precisely why Tesla remains so compelling. He lived at the boundary between the known and the possible. He saw nature as a grand electrical system. He believed humanity had only begun to understand the invisible world. And perhaps his greatest lesson is not merely that he invented machines, but that he taught us to look differently at reality itself. To Tesla, the universe was not dead matter. It was motion. It was vibration. It was energy waiting to be understood. His mother called him a child of light. In the end, those words were more than a mother's hope. They were a prophecy, because although Nikola Tesla died alone in a hotel room, the world outside did not go dark. It kept glowing, and in that glow, in every lamp, every motor, every current moving silently through the walls of modern life, the forgotten genius remains.